It's probably running for months.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
We have 6 voting members online.
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
It's probably about
At least the rest, so we'll get
the chart thing too, so I was telling.
But I bet others do. We'll get some
Yeah, it's like.
Indiana. I think.
Yeah. But, Where's my signal? I'll take a sit down. I think it was, it was with this one, I was saying, read the slide stuff. But I could. Yeah.
Yes, which one? Find the time date. Closing.
Well, if so, thank you.
Not sure.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm glad.
I'm very busy to fill it. This was.
Well known, is it?
Oh, is it?
I can't really make a big noise on the people know. Yes, okay. If you know somebody, I mean, they're interested. I don't know. I don't know what's that. But
You know, I don't know, that's a good question. I don't know.
yes, yeah, please, I can send you a link.
Mention it
Great, thank you.
not that.
I know, yeah, the people know people.
Okay.
Yeah.
New York.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Let's call this meeting to order. Good to see you all and thank you for joining us here for KIPTA Transportation Technical Coordination Committee. Today is Wednesday, November 12th. Brandy, Andy, would you please do roll call?
Certainly will. We'll start with Bullitt County. Hi Keith, I see you online. We got a lot online today, it looks like. City of Charlestown. City of Jeffersontown.
Here.
City of Jeffersonville. City of Mount Washington. New Albany. Shepherdsville. St. Matthews.
Keenan Stratton's here.
Keenan. Clark County. Floyd County. NDOT, Public Transportation.
Haley's here.
Hi, Haley.
Julie's here.
Julie. I think I saw Bob.
Bob Talley's here.
There, hi, Bob. Let's see, anybody from NDOT Technical Planning? I don't believe so. We got a good contingent from NDOT. Kentucky DAQ.
Blake Taylor's here.
Hi, Blake. KYTC District 5.
Tom Hall here.
Little Tom. KYTC Division of Planning, Central Office.
Isidro Delgado here.
Hello, Cedro. Keep this here. KYTC OTD, I don't believe anybody's here. Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control District. Hello, Flanner. Metro Economic Development.
Mike Kane here.
Hello, Mike. Metro Planning and Design.
Yeah, Brian Davis here.
Hello, Brian. Metro Public Works.
Mark Knoll, present.
Hello, Mark. Regional Airport Authority. Daryl let us know this morning that he'll probably join online. He may be a little bit late, so he may join us here in a little bit. How about the Riverport Authority? Oldham County.
Here, not Charlie.
Just in time. Oldham County Planning Commission.
Here.
Here.
Port of Indiana. TARC Accessibility Advisory Council. Here. Town of Clarksville. And then last but not least, TARC.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And then who Summers? Larry Summers from New Albany is here. We have Bruce Bonney from Trimark is here. Tanya Higdon, that might be Camille. Camille, is that you or is that Tanya? It is Camille.
It's me. Hi.
Hello,
I'm
Camille.
providing coverage on behalf of Federal Highway today. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for joining us. And if we missed anybody else, we'll catch up at the end. So we definitely have close.
Sounds good, thank you. Well, then the next item on the agenda is September TTCC meeting minutes review and approval. I hope you all had opportunity to review. So if yes, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions, revisions? Hearing done. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So the item number 3, Transportation Policy Committee report, review of the September and October TPC activities, and Andy will present.
I will. Let me bring those up real quick. Because there's 2 of them. I only have information for 1, but I'll get that for you. We missed last month, right? So apologies. September TPC, we covered. That was the month we did the UPWP amendment. You may recall us approving that. That was where we got some TARC projects in there among some other changes. We had the for those that are here, you may recall at the TPC meeting, we had Jonathan Albers from HDR presenting on the Kentucky Rail Plan. So that was our guest speaker. We had a few cost increases among other agenda items. We announced the KITE Award, and if you are eager to know, you will learn at our November TPC meeting who will win the KITE Award. That is scheduled, by the way, while I'm bringing it up, that is scheduled for Tuesday the 25th. Tuesday the 25th, our friends in J-Town are going to be hosting us at the Jeffersonian at 9:30 a.m. That's the TPC meeting later this month. In October, we covered the following. I apologize. We moved this week. For those who didn't know, if somebody's wondering why there's a used furniture warehouse out here, we moved our offices this past week. In October, we talked a little bit about the roadway functional classification update. Aaron Maselli talked about the 2027 travel model update. That was certainly something that we bring before the TTCC, and we would have done it if we had our meeting last month. So hope you all get that information today from Aaron Maselli. We updated our what's known as our planning MOA. That's the agreement between KIPTA, KYTC, TARC, and NDOT on all the planning activities. When we do an amendment, KIPTA shall do this. The key planning partners will do this. And so that will be circulated here within the next few weeks for legal review and signatures at your respective agencies. And then Brady brought forth a end of the year what'd you call it? Funding estimate, I guess, showing how the fiscal year shaped out in 2025. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, appreciate it. Public comment period. So Greg will let us know of any public comments received before TTCC, and we will entertain your comments.
Yes, did not receive any comments prior to the meeting, did not see anything in the Q&A, but this is the opportunity, if anybody in the room, a member of the public wants to speak. You have a few minutes to address the committee if you'd like.
Anyone online?
Okay, I think that comes up with another, I'll bring it up with another business.
Thank you. Item number 5, TTCC nominating committee. KIPTA staff is requesting formation of the committee to recommend KIPTA officers for the 2026 TTCC. Action will be requested and Andy will present.
Yes, ma'am. So we are in need, our bylaws say that at our regularly scheduled meeting in November, that there should be a nominating committee established to set the stage for the election of new officers for the new calendar year. That would be brought to the TTCC at our January meeting and voted on at that same meeting. The bylaws say that committee should be made up of our chairperson and then 2 other individuals, voting or advisory members. And so at this time, we'll be seeking 2 volunteers to go through that process, that nominating committee process. It probably is not much more than a Zoom call with myself and our outgoing chairperson. And then two of you guys, and we'll nominate a chairperson and a vice chairperson. So be seeking volunteers at that time.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone to volunteer?
Or I can
Great.
get on.
Thank you, Anna. As many as you want.
You need at least two, or we should get
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
I think bylaws say two, but I don't see the harm in having
Right.
more than two.
It's not a hard job.
Yes,
Fun stuff.
and this is no guarantee that you are the chairperson or the vice chairman. It's not
Yeah.
that a little bit. This is just nominating somebody. So if you don't want to be that, then maybe you should definitely volunteer. If you don't.
And feel free to nominate yourself too. Yeah, self-nominations are okay, right?
I think that's happened
Yes.
before.
Any of our online attendees?
I'll jump in if nobody else will.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Always dependable. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, appreciate that.
All right, so we'll have Anna and Keith and Aida and myself just as administrator to the process, and I'll send out a Zoom meeting. We'll host it at some point in December, certainly before our January meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. Item number 6, formerly known as Environmental Justice Guide Update. And Elijah and Spencer should discuss the ongoing updates, including the name change of this document. Action will be requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, I'm Spencer. Elijah. We're gonna present the pretty big update to the environmental justice and now EIA guide.
So, background, in the past, environmental justice was a metric used by KIPTA in the MTP scoring process. But with new administration changes, specifically Executive Order 14151, environmental justice is no longer a required metric in the MTP process. We've decided to keep it in the MTP, but we're going to provide some things, including the metrics and as well as the name. So
So if you recall, it used to be required per Executive Order 12898, but that one was revoked with this new one. Yeah.
And it's been about maybe 3 years. in this one.
Wait,
That's
no,
fine.
just kidding.
It's been probably 3 years since this was discussed in front of you guys, so just to go back over it. The environmental justice analysis was a metric used in evaluating and scoring our projects in the MTP. And areas that were deemed to have a high concentration of sensitive populations, known as environmental justice areas. These were identified using data from the American Community Survey. And the characteristics used in identifying those were percentage of minority, percentage of low income, the total minority population, and the total low income population.
Yeah, and so before, the way we did it was we kind of got the regional average of, the low income and minority populations. And then if a census tract was 200% or more of that, then you qualified as an HA area. So, I think the regional average for low income was like 12.35%. So we just used 24%. If your census tract was 24% or greater, then it was an HA area.
Obviously now with the new executive order, we've changed some things around. They're now going to be called it's now going to be called the Transportation Impact Analysis. And the environmental justice areas will be called transportation impact areas. The methodology has been revised and the new criteria is going to be 200% of regional averages for elderly, one-car households, disabled, and the percentage in poverty.
So for anyone unaware of what that executive order and the accompanying memos from the Department of Transportation said, essentially we can't use the words environmental justice. So that's why it has to be, the name had to be changed. And then we had to take the minority aspect out of it because they don't want us to look at that.
Yeah,
So,
with the language change comes the change
So,
of that
but-
as well.
you know, in that light, we wanted to add few different criteria too, to kind of encompass other vulnerable populations like one car households, or, sorry, it should say no car households, my bad. No car households, tracks with like a really high percentage of elderly population and, disabled population. So hopefully this still, you know, is a useful tool for us to kind of see where we need to, you know, sometimes target projects to address certain needs in the region.
And you can see there's the new thresholds right there with some tables that Spectre made for us.
Yeah, so like on the left side, sorry, it's kind of small. Like I gave each, like the regional average for each of the new, or prior, you know, things we looked at. So like 12.48% is the low income percentage of population for the region, 16.69% for elderly, 14.15% for disability, and 7.55% of households have no vehicle. And so essentially, if you just double all those, and then we round it down to the closest whole percent, that's kind of how we get, is an EJ area or not?
Or, yeah,
Yeah, sorry, TI area.
and all of those combined, there's your map right there. Those are the transportation impact areas we've got in the Kipton reader in the urban area.
Yeah, so like, we'll show the comparison between the two at the end, but they do look pretty similar. Bullitt County now has a couple of tracks, whereas before,
Yeah.
they were all kind of concentrated in Jefferson with a few in, the urban parts of Floyd and Clark. Oldham County still doesn't have any since we look at the census tract level. So since it's a little zoomed out, if we looked at like a block group level, there's a reason we don't do that. It's harder to compare between census, especially since we're real close. But we just have the 2020 census. You can't compare block groups because they've changed a lot, but you can compare tracks. So that's why we use tracks, but because of that, none show up in Oldham County.
Yeah. And then you'll see elderly,
Yeah,
so we pick up a few there on the east.
yeah, there's a couple
With
pockets,
the bad last time.
couple pockets in eastern Jefferson County, kind of, and then
Disabled, you get more in the west and you get a little more in Indiana as well. No car households, a lot in the west, obviously.
poverty, that's where Oldham County, so like, interestingly, the two. Interestingly, the two new like areas that popped up weren't because of one of the new factors we used in Bullitt County. But because the poverty rate in the region seems to have gone up a little bit, like it used to be 12.35, now it's 12.48. So that kind of increased that threshold, but we still use that baseline 24. I think those were both really close before to that 24%, and they just pushed over this time. So I know the census or the federally defined like poverty levels have increased a lot because of inflation, since they're tied to inflation. So those fours have gone a lot higher in the last 5 years. So here's the comparison. So you see the biggest difference between the two, the old EJ areas and the new transportation impact areas, is that like that Newburgh area of Jefferson County falls off a lot, because that really popped up before just based on a minority population. It wasn't also low income. There's a few that are still left, but you know, because if you think about it, before I used a term before that was like double EJ areas. That would be EJ areas that were both low income and had a high percentage of minority population, whereas, you know, the ones that weren't low income before fell off. But it's a very similar map, especially with adding the new factors of elderly, no car, and disability. It does capture a few other parts of the region that weren't captured before.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't sure, you know, with having to read to the language and all the methodology, but I think that what we've got is a pretty solid tool here now, so.
So,
We're open for any questions,
yeah, and then apologies for the guide not being completely finalized. It should be on our website by the end of business on Friday. There was just a lot of revision we had to do to change the language, update all the methodology. We had to use ICOM's data, which is from the University of Minnesota, because of the government shutdown. We can't access the census data. So it's the same information. They get all their information from the Census Bureau. They just put it on their website, and they have a lot more information that's also available, but we only use the stuff that was like the census data. The nice thing about using their data is they already have like GIS, like joinable, like a column in the table that's really easy to join to the TigerLine file, so that made it actually easier. But if you have any questions, please ask.
Can you say how often it's updated?
So I think traditionally this is updated every 4 years. So the prior update was January 2022. And then the one before that, I want to say, was sometime around like late 17 or late 18. So I think in the guide, it says that we will essentially take a look at it every 4 years. We don't always have to do a complete overhaul. The last two have been pretty big updates because of, I think at the time, the 2 times ago, that was like the first bona fide like EJ guide and methodology and like the actual areas, because FHWA, I'm pretty sure in the Department of Transportation wanted it to be a little bit more like defined. So I think in the new guide, we put that we would, basically reevaluate it every 4 years and just see what needs to be updated.
It's just really up to us or to TCC and TPC at this point, what we want to do. So,
Yeah, I think the original intention before, like in the past year, was to use the CJST tool, which was like the federal government's, I don't know, aim to create something that was more standardized for like all the federal agencies and state and local agencies across the country. But that tool has been taken offline, so we kind of had to pivot once they took that down to doing something else. So this was kind of our effort to create something else that's still useful, but meets all the guidelines. Yeah, question?
You just answered my question.
Okay.
What do you all think about the name?
So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what names.
That's that.
Yeah, I don't mean to make light of anything, but it's as if those words are taboo. And that's weird.
Yeah.
Cause I think mostly the intent is still there and the intent is still federally required. Not completely. There's obviously some things, race, that has to come out.
Are you allowed to use any of the environmental components? Cause I feel like on the federal tool before they had things like fire risk, air pollution, stuff like
I
that.
think you can still use them. The only thing that, and in that tool didn't use minorities, you could see the percentages, but they actually didn't put it in with the intention that maybe if we don't put it in, they'll keep it. Well, it didn't anyways, but the tool still exists. I'm gonna put a link to it in the guide. It's just kind of like hey, here's other things you can look at. I don't remember who, some university or something they basically copied and pasted it and renamed it on their website, and they're like, hey, this is the unofficial thing, but it won't be updated. But it's still pretty useful. There was a lot of useful things in there, like they looked at lots of factors, we only looked at 4, but they had like there was lots of different things.
And every year.
Yeah, I feel like there was like lead pipes and houses. They had 27 or something like that, different factors that they looked at, and they were.
How did the old EJ boundaries compare to this? Did you have a comparison map?
Second to last one.
But yeah, sorry if it's a little small. And we could send this PowerPoint out too.
Yeah, we've got.
I think you did a good job naming it. I mean, it's a tough situation, right? I mean, we're having the same issues where we did a lot of forbidden word, environmental justice work, and it's still really important. And we're trying to find how do you characterize populations that you need to work with without running afoul of these words that are not.
Yeah, I mean, the name environmental justice wasn't a bad thing. but.
It was kind of a misnomer though, in a way,
To
because.
the public, it may not have been as good of a name.
Yeah, the old name was kind of, it didn't necessarily look at environmental factors. It wasn't required. It was kind of,
Yeah,
I don't know, because they tended to do what we did was look at minority and low income. You know, and people would be like, well, what did that have to do with the environment? I'm like. Doesn't exactly, it can, but they didn't always, but like you can see like the big differences are like these two Bullitt County ones. A bunch of these Newburgh tracks are no longer highlighted. There's more in eastern and kind of northeastern Jefferson County. And then there were some shifts down here, kind of like moved over, like these two flip flopped. I think that had more to do with like the low income changing, like, you know, this track right here in Floyd County. Barely falling under that 24%, and then this one going over it. But for the most part, and then there's like one in the west end that isn't highlighted, but for the most part, they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
In that respect, it's really that Newburgh area that pops up to me the most.
You know, we talked about the reasons that we use them here, but it's real important that one of the other reasons is we make them for you all to use as you see fit and whatever that might mean. I mean, that means something different to everybody. So hopefully these hit the mark. Or if not, the individual ones, right? Somebody might say, hey, I really want to find out about the no car ones, no car tracks. Okay, I'm gonna use that for my purposes. If so, great. So.
Yeah, I don't know if there's, and I have all that data, so we can do other things with it too. If you just want to know. Where no car households or one car households, we thought about that, that was a debate too, like, should we do 0 and 1 car households, because I know sometimes those could still. You know, that still creates a barrier for some people, especially families, you know, with 1 car. We kept it at 0, but we could always do that in the future, we could raise the bar a little bit. Yeah, well, I mean, we have all the data as far as that goes. This was all 2023 census data, by the way, census ACS data, so. I think the 2024 will come out in the near future, but it is not yet. So.
I have a couple of comments. Can word environmental still be used? Is the,
we could probably get somewhere in the guide, maybe. I feel like in the title.
I think it is
It seems like it's playing with fire.
Yeah.
It really does. And this is ridiculous what I'm going to say, but it seems as if there's people's put whatever it is, whatever you, Control F, find in your document. Is that word in there? If so, go fix that. That's not allowed to be in there anymore. Get that out there.
Yeah.
So, environmental, it's probably okay, but don't you dare put it next to the word justice.
yeah, and I mean, the name sounds good, especially abbreviation is ECTRA.
Yeah.
But maybe transportation impact could be many different things, could be economic impact.
Yeah.
So maybe thinking about transportation environmental impact assessment, just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a thought, and I don't know criteria, and we are facing the same issue. We are this year updating our triennial Title VI program.
Yeah.
And we are also looking at all the language plus all the statistics that have to be updated. So we are just in the final phase of doing that. And then I would like to kind of mention word disabled. So I was wondering, could we maybe use mobility impaired population or something? We all are in certain ways could be disabled, but also able to do many other different things. Just think about wording
I think the only thing
the
about,
question.
yeah, I think the only thing about that one would be. You know, it's the census defines disabled and it kind of includes all disabilities.
Okay.
So someone could say on the ACS, like that they get the mail, oh, I have a hearing disability. So like, you know,
That is
what does
correct,
that exactly have to do with transportation? It does, especially if you take like public
Okay.
transit or something.
But that table, the ACS table that's what it's searched for.
That-
Yeah, it's just all disabilities.
That is what it is.
Okay.
You know, and it's also self-reported too, so. You know,
Okay.
there's a level
Yeah.
of subjectivity to it too, because somebody could say, I'm disabled.
Yeah.
Right.
And be self-diagnosed, somebody
Right.
could be disabled and say, no, I'm not disabled, like.
Mhm.
There's,
Exactly.
there's a little overlap there too with the elderly, if you look at the maps too. 'cause that-
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I say, if you're elderly, you're like, it counts as a disability. I mean, there's so many different definitions of what you could say,
Correct.
you know.
Yeah. Okay, if the census use it and if it's recognized.
Yeah, that's the only reason we didn't think about it that
That's-
way.
Oh, okay.
It is the table is elderly and on the census,
Yeah, one is elderly, the other, like, we used the table that was like basically age distribution, so then I just added up all the ones that were like 65 and older, but they split it from like 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 14, they went all the way up like that. So we just added together the ones that were 65 and older. That seemed to be the most common definition we got. Because sometimes you see 60 and up, but
Yeah,
I felt like 65 and up was probably the most common definition for elderly, so.
Just a comment on language, particularly around disabled, but using person first language, like people with disabilities
Mhm.
instead of saying like the disabled population, just,
that's,
I think
Yes.
it's more acceptable in the
absolutely.
communities that
Yes,
we're
yes.
discussing those ways.
And we could reword that, it was just kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that sounds
first
great.
attempt.
Good. Okay, so any other comments, discussions online or in the room? Or hearing done, so I assume your motion here would be to recommend TIA guide to TPC for review and approval. Okay, do we have a motion? Thank you. Second, thank you. Thank you, Isidro as well. So, any questions or further discussion? All in favor, say yes, raise your hand. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Elijah and Spencer.
Thank you.
Item number 7, participation plan. Greg will talk to us and highlight the changes for the updates to keep the participation plan, and action will be requested.
Absolutely. So, it's that time of year that we update our participation plan. And actually, just a note that it is still open to the public for feedback until Friday, 14th. If we receive any comments, we'll be sending those to TPC following that. For the ones that may not be aware, the participation plan is just the playbook for how the when, where, and how we participate when it comes to the public. And we're required to update this every 4 years. So we are closing in, we last updated in 2022, so just right on the cusp of 4 years, went ahead and made the updates. This was not a major update by any stretch of the imagination, but we did make some small changes. One is we're dropping public from the name of the plan, so it's just gonna be called participation plan. That was based on recommendations from our federal partners at the Federal Certification Review back in 22. We are adding a public comment period recommendations for call for projects. So as some of you all are probably aware, that's something new we started back a while back, about 6 months ago, where when we have a call for projects, we allow those projects to be sent out to the public to give feedback that then goes to that working group, so you all can make better decisions at the end of the day. So we have just basically made this official, that this is now something we will do, and that is the idea of that. We also made a public comment recommendation for the UPWP. We have never received any comments in the times that I have been here, anytime we've done an amendment. So we took that from a must back to basically best practice. A lot of times the timing of these things are such we need to get these out quickly. So we kind of figure this is still being transparent, but it is to move it down to a best practice instead of something that we're kind of hamstrung with. We also updated the readability of the document a little bit, made it a little bit more, I think, comfortable for folks to read it. This is a participation plan for the public. It's not based on folks that understand the ins and the outs of transportation like we do. We also made changes just like Elijah and Spencer talked about, removing words like environmental justice from it. We will change that now to those names, but we've removed those from this document. As you can see, I also try to make the charts a little bit more understandable. This is a breakdown of the notifications of the public engagements we give out. As you can see, our actions, we do on social media, we do email notifications. We also do our monthly meeting notice, websites. The dark blue is must and will, best practice is in blue. We also have some optional things that we handle. Public streaming, obviously we stream these over stream all these meetings, the committee meetings on YouTube. We'll continue to do that. I think that's a great way to get people involved that may not be able to come to the meetings or may not have access. They can go to the library, they can watch it there if they don't have the digital access at home. That allows them to go and watch either recordings or be live at the meeting. The next one is just, again, the notification of public engagement for the KIPTA NPO plans and programs. As you can see, as I said, we added in the call for projects. Everything else pretty much stays the same. Actions are requested to approve this to the participation plan to the TPC, and I'll take it for November 25th. But like I said, public comments still open until the 14th, and that is also, if any comments from the committees want to provide those in the next couple of days, you have that opportunity as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Greg?
Here's the reason for the removal of the word public. Is it because
that was-
involved, or is it too complicated, or?
If I remember correctly, our federal partner said it's everybody's participation plan. And so they felt like it shoehorned it by saying public. So they just said, we prefer you to drop the public from that. That was a note given to us.
The slides have public engagement and public.
Right.
It's playing a lot of word games today here at the KIPTA TTC.
Right, yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was basically.
Objection, just curious.
Right. And there are many documents that require public participation.
Right.
So that really has to be public participation properly notified, comments collected, reported, all of that. So
Yes.
it's interesting discussion today on the wording and terminology. Okay. Any other questions? Online? All good? So do we have a motion to approve participation plan and forward to TPC for final approval?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say hi or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Greg. So item number 8 is call for projects, working group recommendations, and Brady will provide review of recommendations that have been discussed as part of the STBG NPO call for projects. Thanks, Brady.
You ready to go?
As a reminder, this is the health project just for Kentucky, just for our STBG NPO program. Reminder of the timeline of where we're at on this process. This began back in June. We had our application period throughout the month of July. Application period closed beginning of August, and the next couple of months was a period of evaluating applications, working with sponsors to revise applications as necessary. The working group working to score and evaluate those applications, as well as our public comment period where the comments to get prepared for the working group to meet in October, which they did. And in one meeting, we're able to come up with these recommendations that I will present to you today. And today, November 12th, the TTCC, this body will have an action on these recommendations. You are welcome to adjust the recommendations as you see fit or accept the recommendations as provided to you. It's up to your purview. And then that recommendation from the TTCC will then go to the TPC later this month for final approval. The changes associated with call projects will then be implemented into KIPTA's KIP via an administrative modification if eligible, or if it needs to go through an amendment process due to the necessities of changes with the project, then it will go through the next amendment, which is scheduled to be approved by the TPC in January. The working group considered a few different strategies for prioritizing projects. They considered a variety of different variables that was presented to them, including the project's MVP score, average working group rankings, the public feedback that they received from the public comment period, internal project sponsor rankings, project history, a variety of different variables were discussed, deciding this recommendation. one of the primary driving forces for the decision-making process is prioritizing projects that were already existing MPO dedicated projects that needed more funding, especially if those projects are nearing a construction life. We want to get any projects actually built for the public as quickly as we can. So 99.5% of the recommended funding proposed that I'm going to present to you today fit that category of they go to existing MPO dedicated projects. Also to note that the demand for funding in earlier fiscal years, similar to last year, in fiscal year 26 and 27 is higher than fiscal years 28 and 29. So most of the recommended funding is for earlier years, not later years. And corresponding to that, we had to make a couple funding adjustments with other projects to make room for more of the funding being able to be programmed in earlier years. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, here's the list of all of the projects that were considered by the working group for potential funding. I'm going to go through each of these, just a quick summary of each of these projects. So the first one here is KIPTA ID 381 Mutual Link Road. So the Louisville Metro project, which is planning to add a center turn lane on Mutual Bank Road from GE Appliance Park to US 31E. I believe it also includes some sidewalk improvements as a part of that center lane inclusion. This project is partially funded with KIPTA's STBG funds for construction currently, about $6 million. And the rest of the project is currently funded with a couple of different state funds. So with high growth community funds and state capital project funds. The request that they have is $1.6 million increase to their utility phase. In addition to all those funds I just mentioned, the project already has. Next project on this list is South Madison Avenue. This is a project from the city of Middletown. To construct an ADA compliant sidewalk along South Madison Avenue from Main Street to the bend in South Madison that kind of turns into Tucker Station Road right there. In Middletown, this project has been under design for many years. The PE phase was first authorized in 2016. Had some complications, some confusion with the consultants, but have since kind of got on track with that project. They have acquired right away, I believe, for that project and are getting close to ready to construct the projects. And so their request, although this project originally started out as a TA project using TA funds for those earlier phases, they're requesting the $400,000 for construction to proceed with this sidewalk project. Next project on here is KIPTA ID 163, the River Road widening project from Louisville Metro. This project intends to widen River Road from 2 to 4 lanes from east of Fairgrass Creek near Pope Avenue to Zorn Avenue, and plans to include bike lanes and a shared use path. This project, previous construction estimate was almost $15 million for the federal portion of those construction funds, and the new estimate, as within the last year, is up to the federal amount requirement of almost $19 million in federal funds. So they requested $4 million of STBG funds to get them up to an 80-20 match on their construction. That project, very old project that we'll talk more about in detail in a little bit, but they are expected to let in 2026 as last I heard for this project. So we're getting close to the finish line, hopefully, and that was a important point for funding this project from the TTCC working group's perspective. Next project on the list is KIPTA ID 2979, the Ohio River Valley Northeast Bike Ped Improvements Phase 1, the Little Loop. This project is to construct a shared use path system, including amenities that connects the Lewis and Clark Bridge to US 42 in Prospect. This project currently is funded with a mix of CMAQ state funds and KIPTA's CRP funds. So the request here for the STBG funds is actually to have a construction phase in fiscal year 26 to build a parking lot that will connect the future trailhead of this project. And it also connects to the existing path on the Lewis and Clark Bridge Greenway Trail. They've had, feedback from elected officials and the public about that connection to the trailhead being unsafe. Currently just a gravel lot under I-265 there that is being used. There's no dedicated crosswalk or anything like that. So, this request is simply to have $640,000 federal to go ahead and build that parking lot and access to the trailhead. And the actual trail associated with this project is still scheduled for CRP funds in fiscal year 29. Actually build the other trail in that area. The next one on the list here is our only new project that is being recommended for funding. Is for a study for $100,000 in Prospect along the US 42 corridor. So KIPTA is currently funding another project, KIPTA ID 230, that is looking at safety and mobility improvements along US 42 from, from the Harrods Creek Bridge to River Road. And so that process is currently under design. They've received a lot of positive feedback about the process. And they want to, a little bit of additional planning money to build off the comments that they've received from the process of their US 42 project and build off the 2022 planning study that covered the entire corridor for that project area. So this study is going to specifically look at the north and south ends of the US, the KIPTA 230 US 42 project, just to make sure that their plans that they have in place are what they should be doing going forward, or if they need to make adjustments. So $100,000 was requested for that plan study. Next one on the list here is KIPTA ID 2270, the Northeast Louisville Loop MET Section 3. This project is to construct a shared use path along Shelbyville Road from Bertram Road to Beckley Creek Park. It's about half a mile. And also includes the construction of a pedestrian bridge over Floyd's Fork Creek. This project currently does not have a utility or construction phase program. And so they're requesting to add funding for those later implementation phases. Next project is KIPTA ID 321. Look at the LaGrange underpass west of LaGrange. The construction is the construction of a rail underpass west of LaGrange on Allen Lane. The project also seeks to, correct me if I'm wrong here, Tom, I believe it also seeks to widen Allen Lane and align it with Commerce Parkway that connects to the new 71 exit.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And aligned it with Spring Boulevard, Spring Estates. That too.
Yeah, that too. Thank you. So that's what this project is. The prior federal amount estimate for construction was $11,455,000. The new estimate is $22,625,000. So hence their request for this project of an additional $11.2 million, which is quite a lot for what KIPTA projects typically request. However, this is another project that is currently scheduled for a 20.6 letting. As far as I know, is fairly close to crossing the finish line. This project is also going to be matched with toll credits, which is good in that my understanding for construction, Oldham County won't have to put in any local dollars to match these construction costs. Okay, next project is KIPTA ID 2627. Homestead Parkways Multi-Use Path System. Section 6 this is a shared use path of about 1.4 miles along Southern Parkway between South 3rd Street and Woodlawn Avenue. The request is to add utilities and construction for this project, neither of which are programmed at this time. However, the recommendation from the working group, based on funding availability and priority of the projects at this time, is to utilize right-of-way funding that was not needed for the right-of-way phase. So they had around $500,000 program for right-of-way, only needed around 50 to 100,000. So the remaining of those right-of-way funds be shifted to the utility phase. So in essentially, this recommendation would be funding the utility phases of both section 6 and 7, you'll see there, but not the construction phases at this time. Section 7, has the same results. It's also just basically a continuation of that same path. It goes on Southern Parkway between Woodlawn Avenue and New Cottonwood. So there's projects about each other. Last two projects on this list are the only ones on here that are not recommended for funding at this time. They're both KYTC projects. The first one is the Hurstbourne Lane and 6 Mile Lane intersection project. And the second one is KY 1819, which is Watershed Trail right near here, KIPTA ID 3305. The reasons these were not recommended for programming of KIPTA funds is primarily because these projects already have KYTC state funds in the highway plan committed to these projects. And so it doesn't really make sense for KIPTA to choose to fund them when we have other projects that also need money. If anyone has any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. And so the recommendation for funding is what you see here, not stricken through the, and the funding amounts in that right column is what is being recommended from the PTCC working group. And also should be in your packets as well, to repeat. Right, a couple other adjustments associated with these programming. Programming of additional SDBG funds are a couple of KYTC projects, KIPTA ID 2214 and KIPTA ID 1271 are both projects that currently have construction phases programmed for fiscal year 26, but based on the kind of realistic timeline of those projects, it was deemed by the group and with permission from KYTC to shift to those construction phases from fiscal year 26 to 28. So they keep their funding, they just shift back, and in shifting back to a later year, that allows more money to be programmed in earlier years for these other projects that we're hoping to get to a letting in fiscal year 26 or 27. This is a summary of what the updated STBG carryover balance will look like if all of these recommendations are eventually approved. So remember when you're looking at well, those are not the right, I'm not sure if those are the right numbers. Sorry. I don't know why they're not showing up. It's weird, but the actual numbers are the carryover for fiscal year 25 was $145 million that carried over.
Look to the next slide.
Oh,
Did it?
oh. Okay, there you go. I must have miscopied or something. I got an old table on there. That's the numbers. Good, thank you, and great. $145 million was the projected carryover at the end of fiscal year 25. And then all these other numbers assume that all the projects that have program funding will be obligated in the year they're programmed. So it's assuming a 100% obligation rate. And so if everything on the books gets obligated in fiscal year 26, there will still be a $20 million carryover balance. And if everything is obligated in both 26 and 27, then we will technically be in the red over programmed by $1.2 million. Same thing, if everything is obligated through 28, we'll technically be in the red to $4.6 million through fiscal year 28. And then through fiscal year 29, we'll be back in the black of funding available, $3.7 million. Now also keep in mind that these numbers do not include the STBG cost increase reserve. That's 20% of our allocation, yearly allocation cut off the top. So while it looks like in fiscal year 28, over programmed $4 million, we actually have more than that just set aside in our cost increase reserve fund. So we could cover that with money we already planned to have allocated just in that, just with those funds. Also fair to say, we will not have a 100% obligation rate in the next 4 years. So in other words, there's not a concern of this constraint with the numbers either. Okay, so there's a couple projects I'm gonna go, just as a reminder. The kind of project delivery history with a couple of our older projects that we are recommending to meet their funding requests at this time for. So the first one, KIPTA ID 163 River Road widening, it's a little metro project. Project was originally introduced to the tip before 1999. I would have to go back, our online database didn't exist at the time this project was implemented, so I don't actually know without going back and looking at our paper records when it was first implemented. It was before 1999. FEMA states the first PE authorization was in 1993, 2 years after, or 2 years before I was born. Okay, the construction has shifted at least 17 times. The original cost estimate was.
How many?
At least 17.
Okay, just check.
Okay, the original total project cost estimate was $8.5 million. Today's estimate is almost $40 million. This is a 368% increase. The estimate of how the dollar has inflated since 1999 is 94%, so that's included within this 368%. So anything that's above 94% is inflation due to just cost of materials or things being more expensive regardless of just the worth of the dollar itself. Or changes in the project scope, etc. This project has been funded by KIPTA as far as I can tell in our records, has been funded by KIPTA dollars since its inception. Okay, the second one is the LaGrange underpass west of LaGrange, KIPTA ID 321. Project originally introduced in the tip in the year 2000. According to FEMA's first PE authorization was 2006. And the first record I had on our database that actually showed the funding source associated in the tip, once again, without looking at some of our older paper records, was 2009. So somewhere, it was a long time ago, but the first PE phase was programmed and authorized for this project. Construction base for this project has been shifted at least 13 times, based on my records. Original total project cost estimate was $5 million. Today's estimate is around $36 million. This is a 624% increase. Includes 88.14% estimated inflation due to just the dollar, like I just mentioned before, since 2000. The earliest record of STVG funding from KIPTA is 2005 in our record for program. So this project has been funded by KIPTA for a very long time. It's a lot more expensive than was originally hoped for. Third project on here is Peachel Bank Road. This one is a little different than these other two. Okay, but it's also an old project in the tip, first instance of the tip in the year 2000. But the first PE authorization, according to FEMA, wasn't until 2021. Okay, so that's a key difference in this project and these other two projects I'm going to talk about. So the project's total cost estimate, similar to the other projects, it is 966% higher than was originally estimated in 2000. Once again, from 2000 includes an 88.14% increase due to the dollar. So that's when you say something is 1,000% more expensive, this is literally actually 1,000% more expensive than was originally estimated a long time ago. This project was programmed entirely with state funds up until KIPTA decided to chip in $6 million for construction in fiscal year 24. And that phase has since been shifted to 25 and then again to 27. Okay, but once again, back to the key difference here is the difference between being in the tip and actually getting funding authorization to start the project. It is my hypothesis that this project was in the highway plan for a long time without having the real money to proceed, perhaps. So the level of getting behind schedule with this project is not nearly as much due to, or has more to do with funding not being actually available as the other two projects. They had KIPTA money available. This one had state funds that weren't quite as sure. And first PE authorization of the project actually started in 2021, which isn't very long. It's not actually that long ago. Okay, but cost estimate's way higher. So with that in mind, keep those three projects in mind here. KIPTA staff would recommend have a funding ultimatum with 2 of the 3 projects that I just listed. The third one, Mutual Bank, I would not consider in this ultimatum for the reasons I just talked about. It's not actually as old as it might seem on paper, and hasn't had KIPTA funds for very long. That's a more recent development. But River Road widening and Range Underpass west of LaGrange have been in our system for a very, very long time, and it costs a lot of money. So what KIPTA staff would recommend is granting the funding in this call for projects. That's more than $15 million of additional funding granted to 2 projects that we anticipate will go to a letting in 2026. It's currently scheduled to actually get to construction. It's great news. But the ultimatum would be, please do not come to KIPTA and ask for more money for these projects again. This is it for these 2 projects specifically. If it takes even longer than it has and it needs more money, then KIPTA needs at some point to draw a line somewhere, okay? Also of note, this ultimatum does not did not reach a consensus from the working group. Okay, so different from the working group or the project funding recommendations I talked about, those were consensus agreement on which projects should get money. This addendum to the agreement was not reached by consensus. Also note, the project management guidebook does not provide any particular policy on projects that are 20+ years old and have underperformed for a long time. However, it does state that it's ultimately up to the TPC to make these kinds of decisions. So it's well within the TPC's purview to create something like this, and within the TTC's purview to recommend a funding addendum like this. So with that said, also, you may ask, well, are these the only 3 historically non-performing? If your dedicated projects, answer is no, they're not. There's a couple other ones as well that I can think of that I have listed on this slide here. However, and there's a couple others that are debatable beyond these that I have listed. However, these are not the ones that are asking for funding at this time. And so, hence, they're not being brought up at this time. If they were also asking for funding at this time, they'd probably be included within this recommendation. Okay, so happy to answer any questions or discussion anyone would like to have. There'll be 2 actions separately. So 1 action specific to recommending the funding, and a 2nd action regarding this funding ultimatum with just 2 projects, River Road and LaGrange Underpass.
Right. Well, thank you, Brady, for lots of information to process, and I know working group had also very focused discussion on all these projects. At this time, do you have comments or questions for Brady?
Hi, you
Thank you.
I have several comments. And first of all, I was part of the working group, and I recognize that we didn't reach a consensus, and part of the reason I think we didn't reach consensus is because you know, there's what I see is historically here, when a project is selected for funding, it's a commitment to the public, it's a commitment to partner agencies that we're going to build a project. And when we abandon or not funding a project, I really think there really needs to be very good reasons for that. And if a project has for many years been moving along, maybe slower than certain people, individuals may not like, then that, you know, we have to look at that fairly. We can't just we can't just pick random projects. And, you know, there are hundreds of projects in the program that are not performing. These projects that are actually moving, they're asking for more money, they're moving, they're getting better cost estimates, they're authorizing funds, and they're nearing construction. And, you know, so the point is that, you know, I'll make 3 points. Number one, I work with the transportation cabinet. We have hundreds of projects, and this is not uncommon that a project takes 20 years to deliver. It is regular and customary that a project would take 8 to 12 years to build on an easy project, from planning to construction. So to me, it's not uncommon that this has taken a long time on all those projects are major undertakings. The second thing is, as I said earlier, there are hundreds of projects in the system and we should treat them all fairly. And just because these came up for funding doesn't mean they should be, kicked out of participation for future, for whatever reason. I mean, there are many, many projects, they should all be looked at fairly. So it seems a little arbitrary, that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, Kip just said draw a line. Let's draw a line and say, we enough's enough. I don't know what that means. And in my opinion, that means go back to a project management guidebook and let's create some policies that fairly looks at all the projects. And so with those things in mind, I would certainly recommend continuing to support projects that KIPTA agreed to support. But as far as the ultimatum, I disagree. I would propose that maybe rather than do an ultimatum, we refer that back to a project guidebook group to come up with policies and incorporate those into the guidebook. That's just my. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I think as far as the second matter too, singling out the two if they do need money, hopefully they don't. They would have to come before the bodies to be reviewed again. At that point, it's determined they shouldn't move forward and then make that decision at that point as opposed to today ruling them out.
Right, and these are federal undertakings, so we don't just stop working on a project if we can't find this 10 million or 20 or whatever it is from the funding source that we've relied on for a couple of decades. Where does the money come from? And if the money stops the project, then, and we can't build the project, where do we get the money to reverse the action and call it a no build because we don't have the money? Is KIPTA gonna support us turning off the federal undertaking? Because that too is a process to make a new decision, rather than to move forward with federal money, we stop. We have to go back and revisit the environmental decision to build a project. Cause we already said we needed it, we already invested millions of dollars in it, and then we can't just arbitrarily stop working on it. We either gotta keep working on it and be committed to it, like we said in the MTP and the TIP, or we need to do an environmental document that says why we didn't do that project or why we quit supporting it.
I might suggest that we've got a $145 million project or problem on our hands. That was the carryover from this past fiscal year to our current fiscal year. That's a big problem. We've got to start fixing that problem. It's a hard problem to fix, and this won't fix it. This isn't gonna fix it, not by itself it won't. But I think the support for these projects is not in question, I don't believe. The proposal is to give them $15.29 additional $1 million. $15.29 additional $1 million. That seems to be quite supportive. That's on top of dozens of millions of dollars that they already have. But I think it is being supportive. It's not being unsupportive of these projects. I think the project management guidebook question is a fair one. I think that that's something that we have in mind to address in an update probably in first part of calendar 2026. The guidebook, not necessarily this, not necessarily anything else, but the guidebook itself.
Right.
It's impossible to say all the hypotheticals of what can happen to all the different project conundrums that we face. And so it is correct to say that we don't have that in there. Maybe we need to add this, whatever this is. Hey, after a period of time, then enough's enough. Maybe we do. We'll talk about that next year. No matter what happens today or this month.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we can't predict all the things that are going to come up with these projects. And again, these projects are not unique, and that's a point well taken too. And what will happen next time? If those Brady called out 2 projects, reasonable chance they'll ask for more funding in the next call for projects. They have a lot over the years, and so there's a reasonable chance they will again. That will be up to us again, so to speak, to say enough is already enough is enough already for those. because of what we did in October or November 2025? I don't think so. I don't think that doesn't seem like something the TPC would do over the years, I would say. That those would be given a fair shake at that time when they ask for more funding. So again, it's not an easy problem to fix, and this doesn't fix our $145 million problem, but that $145 million carryover problem is one we've got to fix. We're playing with fire by not fixing it. That's something that we've got to whittle down. And these projects, their completion whittles it down better than anything else does, right? Getting River Road built, getting Cooper Chapel built, and getting Butyl Bank and getting the LaGrange thing. There's nothing that whittles it down better than getting the projects done, getting the money spent, and that's the top priority. And hopefully, nothing that happens here today or at TPC this month would ever put that in question.
Thank you. I would like to make a small comment, and obviously everyone else is still welcome online and here. So first of all, as far as we know, these two projects are moving forward and seriously, hopefully crossing the finish line next year. So, and working group considered that and supported, as you said, Brady, so, and you, Andy, we support this project, we support the projects that move forward, and we would like to see the money that is allocated to these projects to be spent on the construction. I understand the ultimatum, quite frankly, I started working at Louisville Metro Government in 1999, and River Road was the very first public meeting I ever attended. So it's been quite a while, and I'm watching this project happening, but not happening. Now it is happening. The ultimatum is, I understand, seriously considered, but realistically, we won't be able to enforce it. And for example, we give them 12 million or 15 million. And year down the road, they say, we are almost done, but we need 2 more million. So we can't really say no, because we want to see the project to be completed. We can direct them for additional review. We can direct them to explore different sources of funding. But probably we won't be able to enforce ultimatum if the project is almost done. They are large-scale projects, and it is difficult to estimate dollars and cents and how much they will really cost. So obviously this is multiple requests for increase in funding, and other projects are probably standing in line to be delivered. I would say that we definitely recommend approval to TPC for allocating these funds for all the projects as increase was requested, expecting that this money will be spent and our carryover is not going to be 145 million. And with the ultimatum, we probably could reward something to recommend to review these projects, to, I don't know, provide justification or look for different sources of funding. But I'm afraid even if we approve, the ultimatum is not going to have really power, or maybe it would just hinder the projects from delivery. I understand, again, I'm watching many of these projects for years carry over, and I would like to see more multimodal improvements, more transit improvements, more other things that could happen more faster than the mega projects that are sometimes stalled in time. Comments, questions, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, KIPTA is not all MPOs. KIPTA is KIPTA, and all MPOs operate differently. But one of the things that's very apparent is that our Kentucky process. Well, why do we have that 145 million? Well, lots of reasons, but some of those reasons are in conflict with what other MPOs around the country do. And Brady's brought some of the information before you in the past that oftentimes MPOs require the design of a project to be completed on the local agency's dime. Then, and perhaps only then, is there a good sound estimate for the subsequent phases. Also, some MPOs only will fund construction. Everything's on you, except for construction. And some MPOs say, you come to fill in the blank MPO and ask for $5 million. Okay, here's $5 million. You get $5 million, you don't get $5 million in one. You ask for what you need, and what you believe you need, and the rest is on you. KIPTA is not that, and our guidebook does not say, well, I'm not suggesting that we're gonna turn into that. I'm suggesting that, that it's Andy's belief that, our rules or our generous nature of our process, if you will, this process
Right.
has contributed to the growth of that $145 million. That's all I'm suggesting. And we've got to do something. We know we have to do something. And what that something is, it's a lot of things and hope, and potentially this type of solution could be part of the bigger overall solution.
Should we revisit the guidebook? Maybe make part of this recommendations that the guidebook needs to be revisited for potential revisions?
The guidebook will be revised probably in spring.
Spring is the plan
Okay.
to reassess
Sounds
and many other things.
As a regular process, yeah.
Yeah, and very importantly, in the lead up into the already scheduled by state call for project scheduled for sometime
Right.
around this time next year. Sometime this time next year, we'll be having the same conversation on Indiana and Kentucky and all the different varieties, not just STBG Kentucky.
Well, definitely detailed review on keep the staff part, and thank you for that. So we have all the information we should have to make an informed decision and recommendations. Any other comments or online or in the room? Okay, so do we have a motion to recommend approval of the increased cost for projects as presented by Brady to be forwarded to TPC? That's the first motion of this discussion.
I'll make a motion to recommend funding.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Haley. Any further questions or discussions?
If I might make a quick request for those online, will you please, I guess, turn your cameras on?
Yeah,
Sorry.
all good, thank you. So all in favor for the motion to recommend cost increases to TPC for approval, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you. And the second motion is to recommend to take actions on the proposed ultimatum for these two major projects to not request additional funding from KIPTA. So do we have a motion to approve that request? I'm not hearing support. Do we need to reconsider, this is my comment, do we need to reconsider the wording of this motion or make some adjustments, or?
That would be up to a member of the committee to
Yeah.
suggest something that is separate, or if there's no motion, it will.
Or motion to revisit the situation with constant increases and I mean, long time projects to not being delivered. That could be, doesn't have to, yeah, could be a motion by this committee that staff and the working group revisit repeated cost increase requests.
I mean, it sounds like that potentially could happen with the impending guidebook review.
That- Yes, along with the,
So-
yes, that's a good,
So a motion would not be needed,
okay,
in my opinion.
So I have a quick comment. As an Indiana member of this committee, we, on the Indiana side, if we miss the fiscal year, which we are aiming for, we lose funds. And then we have to go back to the back of the line to get our project reprogrammed. So to see funds that are sitting there at $145 million, it is quite disconcerting to see that amount of cash that could be an influx into this community just sitting there and withering away. So I would like to see some effort made to get Kentucky folks to. I think the Indiana approach is too draconian. but the Kentucky side is too lenient. I would love for a middle ground approach that we could apply to both states, but I mean, that's going to be on the Indiana side for NDOT to figure out. But I do think that there has to be some sort of emphasis to move these projects forward and not just let them sit there on the back burner in perpetuity. So while the ultimatum, I don't know if I can say the ultimatum is the best approach there, but something has to be done. Something has to be done.
Thank you, Larry. Good comments.
I would say that KIPTA staff couldn't agree more with a good part of that. That is the Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold. We've got too hot, we've got too cold in Indiana and Kentucky. Too strict and potentially too lenient. The best solution is obviously somewhere in between there. That's a wide spectrum. Don't get me wrong. It's somewhere in that. So I'm not saying much by saying that,
Right.
but it's very true nonetheless.
Andy, would it be appropriate, for the sake of my tired legs, for the, you could have an action for denial of the ultimatum as well, and that can go to vote, right?
I suppose so. That could be something too, that the TTCC recommends to not pursue the ultimatum. That would be the advice that this body would be given to the TPC here next week or week and a half from now.
Correct. So we have a motion at the table to deny recommendations to approve ultimatum for these two projects.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Can I add an potential addition to that, that we do consider this issue as part of
Yes.
the policy guidebook
Mhm.
review that's gonna be happening and include that in our
Absolutely.
recommendations so that just gives you support as you
Absolutely.
We
go
will,
forward in that.
Brady can certainly take that to the TPC, say, hey, well, we'll see how this vote goes, but potentially you could say, hey, they said, TTCC said, no, thank you on the ultimatum. But
With
the
recommendations.
issue is real, it's respected, and it's something we want to get serious about here the next
Right.
6 to 9 months.
I would accept for the motion to be
Motion amended.
amended.
Sounds great. Yeah. Even if we formally adopt the guidebook, so focus this motion to focus on this specific issue will be helpful. Okay, all in favor in motion, amended motion to deny and revisit this issue with the guidebook update?
All right.
All right, okay, all in favor? Yes. Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Larry, was that a vote in opposition?
That's correct.
Okay, there'll be no.
Thank you. One
Very good.
opposed. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you, Brady. Oh, interesting discussion. So I have to take a deep breath. So item number 9, travel demand model scenario update. Aaron Monselli will provide an update for the latest travel demand model. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, you guys are in the process of developing a new travel demand model scenario. So what is a travel demand model? The travel demand model is the interesting model we operate here at KIPTA that basically spits out futuristic information about transportation systems. So we use this information for wide range of transportation planning studies and different types of assumptions we can make use of futuristic travel patterns. So according to the EPA, the first horizon year in the transportation plan must not be later than 10 years of the base year of the validated model. So the last calibration we did at KIPTA was in 2019. It was based on 2019 model, 2019 data. That was the last very reliable data we could get. The 2020 data was a little bit skewed because of COVID. So because of that, we generated a first horizon year of 2025, then have a 5 year subsequent years. But from next year, the 2025 model will be retired, and the next model we'll be using will be the 2030 model. And that exceeds the 10-year gap from the validated year, which is 2019. So because of that, we have to develop a model in between 2025 and 2020 and 2030. So we chose to develop a 2027 model. So Chris and myself have been reaching out to many of your offices to ask certain questions about, especially about projects that are between the 2026 and 2027 open to public date, to verify if these dates are still valid, basically. So we currently at the last lap of doing that, we have been going back and forth with many of you asking questions and finalizing so many projects. Then after that, we'll now develop a new scenario model. And this is being done. We're also having discussions on how we should develop recalibrate the model in the coming years using a more new data. So it could be 2024, it could be 2025 data sets that we can now use it for the next calibration or next forecast. And future staff will obviously be updating you as that process is being done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Comments, question for Monsawi? Well, it looks like we provided full explanation. Thank you. Okay. Other business on the agenda?
Couple things.
Andy?
First, I failed to mention it during our agenda item number 8, but I just want to, on behalf of KIPTA staff, I want to thank those members that were on that TTCC working group. There's lots of important things we do at KIPTA, but that's at or near the very top of the list, getting these federal funds to the right projects in a fair way, in a well thought out way. Make no mistake about it, it was well thought out by all, and thank you all for your participation, and look forward to meeting that same group again this time next year. That was the deal. Remember, this was a special call. The next one's the regular scheduled every other year call. And so look forward to getting that group back together sometime, probably next summer or so. Another thing I mentioned earlier, for those that weren't on here, KIPTA Transportation Division, we moved our offices over the past week or two. For those that didn't know, for the last 12 or 13 years, 12 for most of us, 13 for a few of us, KIPTA's Transportation Division has been right down the street over on Bluegrass Parkway. You all probably passed it, whether you knew it or not, on your way here. So KIPTA leased space in that building for many years, and now KIPTA's all back together under one roof here. So next time you come over for a meeting, a one-on-one meeting with us or whatnot, you'll get to come to our real office, not one that we have to come over and meet you at. So, so it's a little bit of a mess outside. So you'll have to come back and see us sometime soon to see our offices. And last but not least, I want to recognize Tracy Lovell from KYTC and Nick Creevy from Floyd County. They joined us after the roll call. So thank you guys for being here. And if there's anybody else I missed, I apologize. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. That is all we had on the agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Meeting is closed. Thanks.
Thank you all.